Welcome back to Sleep Detectives. This is the episode where we answer 5 of your burning baby sleep questions. Because if you are wondering it, somebody out there is also thinking exactly the same thing. So we're going to answer these with a whole lot of solidarity. Beck, I know that you got some great questions in your question box this week. So we're going to combine forces and let's tackle them. Do you want to go first?
Yes, and like always, favourite time of the week, so I love getting stuck into these questions. The first question is, just 12 months old, 2 naps, short, long. How do you best wean the middle of the day breastfeed, and how do you structure solids?
Love that they're on a short long. That's our go-to as a transitional schedule at around 12 months. And it's also when I would be looking to get rid of or wean out that middle of the day feed. So usually I often work with families that still have maybe the first, after breakfast, they've got a breast or bottle feed. Then they've got one before big nap 2 and then the one before bed. And I personally usually look to drop the middle of the day, just as this question is asking. So that's already on track for the way that I work. And I'm pretty sure you're quite similar, Beck.
Yeah, very similar. In terms of like weaning that middle of the day breastfeed or milk feed, it's really just a case of personal preference. So you start running out of time in terms of being able to fit everything in. So a short, long transitional routine is anywhere from 6 to 7 waking, starting the day, and having breakfast and an optional milk feed at that point, because 12 months on, we're sort of moving away from needing so much milk or using milk as a tool to fuel our little ones up in terms of, it's optimizing their ability to sleep well. Like it actually moves from that to making sure that we've got solids on point. So that's where that feed becomes optional. And then the middle of the day, we are 10 to 10:30 for nap 1 and then 12 o'clock for lunch. And then that's why it gets a little trickier, because you're trying to fit a bottle or milk feed in half an hour before nap 2. So you either wean it by gradually reducing how much you offer, or you just go cold turkey. My actual preference is just go cold turkey, because I find it just is done and dusted pretty quickly. Whereas weaning it tends to sort of, it plays on your mind in terms of
what will it feel like when I get down to 50 mils or something really negligible? Or just how do I unlatch a baby that's like, how do I know how much they've taken? It's just, we're just latched and suckling for a little bit. It can feel like you're doing it. Or you're cutting them off or something.
Yes.
And I usually find at that age, with some distraction and particularly after a big lunch, it's often more for ritual anyway.
100%. Yeah.
So often when we go cold turkey, they're actually far more okay with it than maybe we anticipate, because they're like, oh, well, I've got a full tummy from lunch. I just smashed nachos. And, oh, look, now we're doing an activity. And you might want to help take the edge off on the first couple of days and, commit to a nice wind down routine in the room in the dark, just in case they'd relied on that milk at all to get them not drowsy, but take the edge off. But it's usually a very short-lived thing. And if your schedule's already in place, their little body clock's primed to know it's sleep time, regardless of whether the bottle's happening or not.
Well, like you said, it is ritualistic, so it will be a step missing. So they will feel like something is out of...
Different, yeah.
Yeah, like it is different to how we usually go down. I know there's an element missing. Sometimes they just can't quite pinpoint it, so it will feel a little bit off when they're going down. But if you follow the way that we sort of structure everything, you're not using the milk as a way to help baby feel drowsy and sleepy and all those types of amazing things. Like it is really just we're topping you up just to make sure. But
this is something we do at this time.
Yeah, but for 12 months on, you just know that it's not the milk is not the catalyst for them going down and having a really good afternoon stretch for their sleep. So it's just about sort of being really confident and calm about removing that element from their rituals, and then going and really just everything's cool, everything's calm. Let's do the rest of the rituals in the same sequence, into bed and back them. Because the thing is that they might feel a little bit off, but if you're sending the same signals of everything's fine, nothing to see here, then after a couple of days, if there is a little bit of like tone to them going down, it should sort of disappear.
I like that tone. It's got a nice way of saying attitude, sass.
All of the above.
All of the above.
But yeah, it's fine to do away with it, and preferable, because you want there to be an appetite for the snack once they wake up from their sleep, and you want there to be an appetite for their dinner. And sometimes milk will become problematic the more we keep it in the mix as they get older.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I've got one. 11-month-old baby. Best way to wean night feeds if co-sleeping, preparing to move to cot at night. I don't know how many feeds are happening overnight, so I'll just take this, as always, we'll just take it at face value. I work with a lot of co-sleeping families that are moving into the cot. So I personally, as a sleep consultant, don't work with co-sleeping families to continue to co-sleep, and it's just not really in my scope of practice. But I do work with families that are looking to move into the cot from that. So what I would normally do is, when I make a plan, we will schedule in night feeds, even at 11 months, if a baby's been used to having overnight feeds whilst co-sleeping. We don't need to do anything cold turkey and ripping. We don't need to rip any Band-Aids here. Usually there's one of two options, and Bec, I don't know if we do things the same here. I would usually say, okay, so let's say we go in with 4 hourly feeds. I'll just make that up, for example. If baby's used to feeding hourly or just latched continuously all night, we'll just say, okay, these are our 2 anchored feed times. Everything else is a resettle. And the resettle can look like bouncing on the football, cuddling in bed. Sometimes I might outsource to the non-feeding parent and say, okay, they're going to do it. We're just shifting the association and redistributing these calories. The thing I'll say is it can be really tricky. It sounds like, okay, well, we'll just rock them every time in between these 4 hourly feeds. When you have been co-sleeping and feeding to sleep are 2 of the strongest sleep associations to try and move away from. And at 11 months old, there's chances that this baby's, that's all they've known for 11 months. And so it's very ritualized, and they can be quite vocal about it. There could be tone, as you just mentioned.
Oh, yes.
And
plenty of tone. When you're trying to
plenty of tone
that.
at 11 months. Who's not allowed to feed be latched from 4 till 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Is it sometimes I feel like if we're going to make change, we just make change. So what I would do is reshape your day. So get the feeds in so that I know you can go confidently into the night knowing what is a feed and versus what is a resettle. And then we would move away. We would wean the night feeds on the night they move into the cot, so that it's easier to do that. Easy, I say that like making change is hard. But then we're not wrestling with I've got a baby, and I'm going to just assume that this might be a breastfed baby. If it's feeding a lot whilst co-sleeping, then you haven't got a baby that's lying next to your breast all night long, but you're not allowed to feed. If that makes sense, like you're trying everything else but feeding, and it can feel really tricky when they're right there. So by having them in the cot, we've got a bit more of a physical buffer. We go in with the plan of resettling, even if it's incredibly hands-on, but they're not just lying right next to the source.
And it's about creating opportunities for baby to learn different ways of settling back off to sleep. So like I am exactly like you, Sally. I think it's just about committing on, when you want to make that change from co-sleeping and feeding all night to being in the cot, you do have to commit to not bringing them back into the bed.
Yes.
Like night 1 is night 1 of a new start. And the commitment is probably having those 2 feeds in place so that you can really fuel them up, be tanked up, so that you can really feel committed and confident to resettle any wakings in between with some other way of getting them back to sleep. Rock, hold, pat, cuddle, bounce, whatever you do, pram, whatever. But the key is that the homework for those first couple of nights is that they return back to the cot once they're asleep. And so it will take some time. And because we work holistically, a lot of the day work will impact positively the night. So I know that this may feel a little bit higgledy-piggledy for listeners out there, but if you commit to returning your little one back to their cot for a couple of nights and you have your 2 feeds, that if they've been feeding all night, their calories are going to increase through the day because you are starting to redistribute your calories into the day, and they're going to be more fueled up, which in turn is going to assist with organically better sleep overnight, even though you haven't technically done sleep training or you implemented a technique at this point. So it's going to, all things factor into having these moments where it gets better overnight. And then once you have created a bit of a awareness around the cot and being returned to the cot and so forth for your little one, then you can go in with a sleep training technique if you wanted to.
Yeah, if you really want to do the self-settling,
the
sleep cycles. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just think also age is a factor here. At 11 months, I think it's usually, I just feel like we'll just do it all. Do the day work, absolutely, as you said. I mean, we talk about that all the time. The change you want for any family is not going to happen, or not happen as easily and productively as you want it to if the day work has not been done. And that includes nap timings, environment, volume of feeds, timing of feeds, the whole thing. And then at 11 months, I'd say, okay, we're just going to do it all at once. We're in the cot and we're going to move away from this. That would probably be my personal preference. Yeah.
And look, for anyone out there, or for this particular listener who sent in the question, if you are a little hesitant in doing all the work, this is like, all questions are fantastic opportunity to get a sleep consultant on board. But for this particular mum, you might just need a little bit of extra hand holding, in terms of and so this is what a sleep consultant is to boost your confidence, to create a really clear plan that your comfort levels are going to match. It's totally fine to give us parameters, but we will absolutely make sure that a challenge like this is more seamless and streamlined for you. So it takes a lot of the thought process out of it. We can help you with things like that.
And I think it's also the cheerleader aspect, because I can guarantee that, you and I work with a lot of babies that have at some point co-slept and then are making the transition. Your baby, nothing will happen that we haven't seen before. In fact, you and I preempt. So we will walk you through, okay, well, 4 to 6 a.m. is going to feel tricky, because that's usually the time that mums are often topless. Like, let's just get through to 7 a.m. and explain why we want to protect the 7 a.m. feed. And so we have to look at the night before we even get to that. So it is coaching as well as cheerleading. Yep. Absolutely. Because, as I said, these are 2 very strong sleep associations, as much for baby as it is for mum.
A lot of families too also find themselves in these predicaments because it's reactive rather than something they went into
wanting to do.
Parenting, wanting to do. So it's they've been co-sleeping and feeding all night as a way to maximize their sleep and get through the nights, rather than something that they thought they would initially set off with. So that, a lot of that is because they feel like there's no way out, or so we'll help you find the way out.
Yeah, there's a way out. Absolutely. Okay, I've got another good one, and then I'll hand back over to you, Bec. What should a 2-nap schedule look like for an 8-month-old? I followed your 3-nap schedule and it was pure heaven. I love hearing that. Thank you.
That is so
Thank you
nice.
for listening and piecing it all together. So for listeners, you'll probably know that we like to hold onto the 3rd nap for as long as possible, which is usually 8 to 9 months old. The sign we are most of the time looking for is that nap 3, in order to know when to make the drop, is that nap 3 is being refused. So nap 2 finishes at, let's say, 2 p.m. and even come 5:30 and you're throwing everything at this nap to try and get it in, this nap is not happening. And that is a sign that your baby has naturally increased their own wake window rather than us stretching it because of a schedule. And that is a great sign to make the change. So when we move to a 2-nap schedule, we are going to a 9:30 till 11 nap 1, a 2 till 3:30 nap 2, and a 7 p.m. bed. It's also crucial that we drop from the 4 milk feeds, breast or bottle, same system applies. We drop down to 3, and we have a whole episode on how to manage milk feeds with the 3 to 2 nap drop, because sometimes that 4th milk feed still stays in the mix and then solids get all wobbly, and how do we fit everything in? So if you haven't already, definitely go and have a listen to that. But I would be doing a 7 a.m. up, a 9:30 till 11, 2 till 3:30, and a 7 p.m. bed.
That schedule that you just sort of mentioned, Sally, is a really great one to start off with. So we always want our families to try and move to that scheduling first, because with this drop from 4 to 3 feeds, this particular nap schedule helps to support the milk and how we get it in beautifully and so forth, and and having really great spacing between solids and milk and naps and all the things. So it really lends itself to everything working in harmony. There are another couple of schedules that we could potentially move to if, for example, you're finding that your little one is really struggling to get to a 1.5 hour nap in the morning and just it's a real struggle. So there are additional schedules that we can also use, but this is the traditional one we would always move to first, and then from there we can sort of nut it out in terms of making it work in a different way.
Yeah, especially if your baby has done well on our previous schedule, this could be a really great natural progression, because we know that on our other schedule there is a long middle of the day nap. So we know that your baby has got the skill to take a longer nap. So it would be a really great natural progression from our previous sort of average go-to 3 nap schedule before the 3 to 2 nap drop.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you've got another one over there.
I do. Actually quite similar vein. 9-month-old naps 9:30 till 10 a.m., then put down at 12:50, waking after one sleep cycle, used to sleep for 2 hours. This has a couple of answers to it. So at 9 months, using a nap that's quite short, 9:30 to 10, it's not uncommon, but it's not my first choice for a little one of this age, because we're looking for around 3 hours worth of sleep over 2 naps at 9 months. And you have to really carefully curate your day in order to make sure that we are getting a good sleep in the second half of the day and no one's overtired and all the naps and all that are sort of slotting in nicely. The real trick to having a 9:30 till 10 a.m. nap is ensuring that your little one is then able to do a 2 to 2.5 hour nap in the second half of the day. So what that actually looks like is 9:30 till 10 a.m., 12:30 till 2:30, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, which actually sounds like a really long nap, but it can work for a lot of families. There does need to be a little bit of effort put into lengthening that second nap out, but it absolutely can be done. So actually what I'm seeing with this particular question is 9:30 till 10 a.m. is a 30-minute nap, and it's not a complete sleep cycle. If we had a complete sleep cycle of, say, 40 to 45 minutes or more, we would use a 3-hour gap to nap 2. But because this nap is only short, it's only 30 minutes, we don't have the luxury of being able to use a full wake window, because it was only a short nap. It wasn't a full complete sleep cycle. So we actually only use 2.5 hours between the end of nap 1 and nap 2 when that nap is so short. So mum's putting baby down at 12:50 when really that nap should be starting at 12:30. So I think that the crucial component for this particular challenge is being put down to bed a little bit too late, and they're slightly overtired, and that's why they're only getting a 1-hour nap for nap 2. So additional cortisol will mean a slightly earlier wake.
Yeah, and I really understand why, because if you've had a short second nap, you'd be naturally inclined to think, I need to stretch the wake window, build more
Mm,
sleep pressure. But in fact, as you said, the overtiredness off the back of the short nap, that's the
yeah.
critical piece here. But also, if you're wanting to get to push the whole day later and get that
Mm,
nap. So with a 9:30 till 10, your whole day could feel like it sits very early if you've
yeah.
then got a short nap. So there could be an element of, oh, if I start it later, then the nap will finish later and then I'll get to a more reasonable bedtime. And it just sort of, sometimes it just doesn't work like that, even though the logic
Yeah.
is there. The sort of the sleep science aspect doesn't quite match.
So the other thing that can happen is when you have a short nap like that at 9 months. I'm not saying that it can't be done because my all three of my children were on this particular schedule, like 9:30 to 10, 12:30 to 3. That's how they rolled.
Also, how nice is that afternoon nap?
Huge. I
Like
know.
that'd be a
I know. It was
lifesaver for so
so
many
good.
families.
It was really great. But we had sleep evolved for a really, really long time to
Mm.
be able to get into a pattern like that where it really worked. In this particular scenario as well, we touched on this just briefly before. It can be really hard to fit all your milk in if you're doing a structure like 9:30 to 10 and then 12:30 till 3 because
Mm.
if you've moved down to 3 feeds through the day, so where do you put them all?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, keeping
and
appetite for lunch.
Exactly. So I think potentially maybe what might be happening is lunch is happening at 12 and then she's trying to fit a bottle in at 12:30 to make sure that she's nice and full to go down for the nap. I'm going to assume that that's what's happening. Um, so yeah, so I think that maybe it's a case of either adjusting nap 1 to be a full sleep cycle in the morning, so 9:30 till 10:15,
Hmm.
which then gives you back that 3-hour wake window for nap 2 to start at 1:15,
Yep.
which gives you extra time to do lunch at 11:45, the milk feed at 12:45, bedtime 1:15 to say 3:15. So you've got you've got more time up your sleeve
Yeah.
to be able to get everything organized and to have it all fit in.
And
And there's
just
no
push your day later.
overtiredness. Yeah.
Yeah. Where did you place your, if you can recall back that far,
Mm.
where did you place your baby's milk feeds
I
on your short long?
actually, yeah, so they would have a big lunch at 12 o'clock. They'd go down 12:30, and then when they woke at 3 o'clock, that's when they would have a milk feed then. But they were able to handle a 4-hour wakeful period from that age to bedtime,
Mm.
clearly because they've just had an absolutely mammoth middle of the day
Monster
nap.
nap.
So they could do a 4-hour stretch. But what we find now is trying to attempt something like that when most little ones are only able to do a 3.5-hour wake window on a 2-nap schedule at this age is that
Mm.
you cannot fit in a milk feed once they wake from their second nap, then dinner, like an hour and a half later.
Yeah. And
And
then
then
another.
another hour later, you're trying to fit another milk feed in. So something gives. And what
Mm.
always gives is that final milk feed before bed. And then you'll have these wakings that start happening. And all you can think about is little Johnny only had half a
Mm.
boob before bed. I'm going to have to offer the feed, So
And then
what we do
calories
is,
keep back in and
yeah.
yeah.
So that's why we put the milk feed in before nap 2. So we really tank baby up for nap 2, create an appetite still for solids, and still have room in the tank for a nice big milk feed before bed.
Yeah. I always did the too long in my house. They did
Oh, yeah.
the two 90-minute naps. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
I think, we've talked a lot just answering these last couple of questions about scheduling.
Yeah.
And when I think it's just worth saying that whenever we make a schedule, even for really rock solid sleepers,
Mm,
your nights can still take a bit of a hit when we make a nap drop,
yeah.
when we play around with sleep pressure and a baby's internal body
Mm,
clock. Nights can take a hit, or perhaps some families hope that if I get this schedule right, it will fix all of the overnight sleep
mm,
issues. You still have to be so consistent with your technique and resettling and stay solid with your feed timing that doesn't creep forward. You help them see it through rather than chopping and changing overnight because, oh, I've dropped the nap or I've rejigged the timings. Now I've got wakings. Instead of trying to fix if it's age appropriate and it gets the nap trap tick of approval in terms of timings and milk and all of that, you just see it through. It is really normal for either it not to fix all of your sleep problems or your great sleeper, it just takes a bit of a hit whilst we redistribute sleep totals and their little body clock gets on the same page. You just remain consistent with your technique. Nothing new.
Yeah. 100%. Our scheduling is designed to tick the boxes. So, for example, let's say we've got a 9-month-old that's waking at 11 p.m. They had a dicky schedule to start with. And so at first, that 10 p.m. waking, we could not be sure whether or not it was an overtired waking, a genuine hunger-related waking, a cold factor. There's all these things that it could potentially be. When we put a really solid schedule into place and we've got the 2 beautiful naps in through the day, the 3 big milk feeds, we've got a really great bedtime, and that 10 o'clock waking is still there, we know with absolute confidence that it's not a hunger-related waking. It's not from overtiredness. It's not from undertiredness. This is strictly an inability to self-settle, and no schedule change is going to fix that. You have to be committed to following through and finding a way to encourage your little one to learn how to self-settle and return themselves back off to sleep. And you can do that with confidence because you know it's not anything other than, I just need practice.
Yep. And I just need to be shown one consistent approach when I wake up. So I know what to do. Absolutely. All right, let's jump down the other end of the age spectrum here. And this is actually a friend of my sister who asked this question. So congratulations on your newborn baby. Yay. Thoughts on using red lights continuously throughout the night for a newborn? Is this helpful or not? You don't need that. You don't need that at any age. The only time where I think we could bring in nightlight is for an older toddler that might have communicated that they're getting scared of the dark. But even then, the red light on so many of the sound machines, if that's what it is, like for example, I use a Glow Dreaming in our house and I love it. I am pro Glow Dreaming. It is so bright. It is the whole room is lit up from the red light. Exactly. In the club, we're all awake. Because the red light is strong. Your baby's not afraid of the dark. The only time when I'd say you could pop it on and I would continue to diffuse it, I'd pop a muslin cloth over it or a little, burp cloth or something to tone it down is if you are stumbling around in the night trying to find the bassinet and the baby and I don't want to sit in the wrong place and you're feeling a bit unsafe moving around. Sure, you can pop it on but keep it very dim. But your baby's not afraid of the dark. We want to keep this really low stimulation and they've got a really developing circadian rhythm. We want to assist it by promoting melatonin production, which needs dark. So I would say turn it off. One less thing. Keep the white noise going if it doesn't drive you crazy if you're room sharing, but no need for the red light.
Yeah,
that would be my personal thought though.
Oh, 100%. I'm actually always intrigued when I hear the recommendations for keeping light on in the room and for red light to be a positive influence in optimizing sleep, because for me, when I'm looking at like the scale of we want a super dark room. We want a really, really dark room because when we're exposed to dim and dark environments, that's where melatonin is produced and released and so forth. The lights, the colors that we want to stay away from entirely are white and blue light. Like they are top of the charts.
Turn it off. Get rid of it.
Stay away. Oh my God, do not enter the room. And then there's there's other colors and so forth underneath there. Red is probably like the color that's going to impact melatonin the least. but it will still impact melatonin. So because when your little one is moving through their sleep cycles, if there's like a little chink of light sort of filtering through the door, like, or, through the cracks and whatnot, it'll send a message through the optic nerve to say, hey, it's daytime, like blah, 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 blah. Melatonin will red light will still do the same thing, but just on a lower scale. So to me, it still impacts sleep. And so for that factor, I would just not have any light in the room whatsoever. You want your little one, because we're biologically more inclined to sleep better overnight as well. So you don't want to have anything in the mix. Yeah.
I agree. I think it's also really tricky because even just on Pinterest, when we're looking at, particularly if it's our first baby, we look on Pinterest for beautiful nursery room inspiration. And so often they have the red light, sometimes even like on a stool next to the cot, and it can look pretty, and it can make it seem like, yes, they do want to know where they are. They've been, it can be stark contrast between being in a womb and now they're just in this dark bassinet and they don't know. They're not thinking like that. And like, I'm not allowed to edit things.
I'm thinking about babies being in the womb and and how loud it is and how dark it is and so forth. And then they can't change that. And I don't know.
All that to say, your beautiful newborn and you do not need that red light. The other thing is that as a baby gets closer to 6 to 8 weeks, when I really find they start to wake up to the world. Yes, it hasn't interrupted melatonin production as much as you said, blue and white light, but it still gives them something to look around at. And as they get older, they're savvy. They want to see what's happening, and they're like, oh, I could see this. This is worth looking at, worth being awake for. And we want to just help calm the farm, give them a very boring, sleep conducive. We want to induce sleep and make it conducive to great sleep. You and I love coming up with new words on this podcast lately. So we want to just keep it the way that we intend to move forward, because then, there's every chance you and I work with older babies that have these red lights on who are looking at anything and everything, and that is so fun to wake up for. So we can just start the way we intend to see sleep through and work with your baby's developing circadian rhythm. Let's help it.
Yep.
That was a really long way of saying you don't need the red light.
It really was. No, you don't need it.
Turn it off.
Yep.
All right, what have you got on your list over there? I think we've got time for 2 more.
Okay, bear with me. Sorry, it's going to come up. Another question was waking from 1 till 3 a.m. for a little girl aged 2 years, 8 months.
That's a lengthy waking. As in awake from 1 to 3?
Yep.
Oh,
waking
that's
from 1
chunky.
till 3 a.m. It's a long time to be awakened. And one would be forgiven for considering this to be a split night because it is such a lengthy wake. The couple of things that I would want to ask mum is what time the nap is, like what time that is happening,
And
how long it's for, and what time bedtime is. A lot of the issues will stem from just a dicky schedule, and the way to work it out is to have the best nap timing known to mankind, and then looking at what's being offered overnight in terms of response to, for a lot of families, they're wanting to speed the process up. They're doing X, Y, Z to try and,
If it's been 2-hour wakings for even a couple of nights, that's too long for me, let alone if it was going on for
100%.
weeks.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess in terms of 2 years, 8 months, ideal scheduling would be waking any time between, say, 6 and 7 to start the day. The nap would be 1 till 2:30. Bedtime would be sitting somewhere between 7 and 7:30 for me. And then that would be the ideal schedule. If that was happening, I wouldn't be thinking that there is a sleep pressure issue. However, it wouldn't be uncommon either to drop the nap to an hour at this age as well. So you could potentially, if you're already at an hour and a half and you're having a waking like that, you could definitely play around with a nap from 1 till 2 p.m. with a 7 p.m. bedtime. So do that, and then just looking at your response and just streamlining it and not feeding into the issue. So really clear, set, you're okay time for no-nos. Because I am going to imagine that this little one has been seamless in her sleep for quite some time to just have this issue just pop up. So there is a history of being able to settle beautifully all through the night. It's just this one waking that's starting to sort of crop up. So I don't think self-settling is an issue. So it would just be a case of...
No, because I would interpret that they've, from bedtime until 1 a.m., they have self-settled and linking a sleep cycle would be my interpretation of that question, which means they've absolutely got the skill if that's the case.
Yes. Yeah.
To be so fair, a 2-year, 8-month-old toddler at 1 a.m., that can be hard work. So once you get on the schedule that Beck's just suggested, it is going into the night and knowing I am going to absolutely see this through. And sometimes it is a matter of outlasting them.
Oh, yes.
Because you've already got a 2-hour waking and we're not sure exactly what's happening. And look, to be honest, I know when I have had the on night of this, I have tried everything. I've sat in the room. I've sat out of the room. I've even offered a squeezy yogurt once. And then I was like, what are you doing, Sally? You would never tell a family to do this. But when you're in there doing it, and at this age, they are loud. Things can be thrown out of the cot. It can feel hectic. So once you know the schedule is on point, you just see it through. And I would be using the most boring technique because toddlers love stimulation and fun. So we want to keep this. There is nothing to see here, folks. It is night time. I love you. I will check on you. And we're going to see this through. I also would want to just triple check, depending on where they are in the world, of course. That's also a pretty chilly time of the morning. Just making sure that they're warm enough and they're still in a sleeping bag so they can't hitch a leg over the cot side and halfway through the 2-hour stint that they've climbed out.
And
it's hard work, but they'll pick up on it so quickly, especially if they've already got the skill set.
Yeah, and just touching on that, exactly how it has to be bore and reassure, super boring. And even down to the phrase that you use, because the more input you put into it, the harder it becomes. And you can't bribe. Lay down, darling. Mummy's if you lay down, then I'll come over and give you a pat. Lay down, darling. If you lay down nicely, then you can have a squeezy yogurt in the morning. We're not doing any of that. We just can't. We can't do any of that. It's just a return, you're reassuring, you're responding, but you're not feeding into it either.
And you I don't know if they're in the room. You got to be out of the room, which can be a tough thing for some families to hear. If you're sitting in there for the full 2 hours, it is going to take a very, very long time, and it's very hard not to over respond and overstimulate.
And one last tip would be, if you hear them in the night, you're taking pause and just only going and starting your technique. If they've reached high intensity and they've maintained the high intensity for some time, if they're low grade, you are absolutely staying out of that room, not going in.
Oh, they can chat to themselves for 2 hours. No problem. That's okay.
Or,
we don't need to go and intervene.
And they go, Mom, Mom, Mom.
That's what I get at 6:40 in the morning. I get, it's wake up time. I'll be there in 5 minutes. We do 6:45 or 6:50 on the dot. They can have a chat. They can bellow. But I think that's a good mantra. What did you say? Bore and reassure.
Bore and reassure.
Yeah. Even if you are in the room. But my preference would be to get you out of there. Okay, should we do last one? Okay, 4.5-month-old. How do I know if first nap should be 45 minutes or 1 hour?
Oh, this is a really good question.
I feel like we could almost do a whole episode on 4-month-old scheduling.
Well, it really depends to me on if you're basically at this age, you're probably looking for an hour's worth of sleep, because I'm trying to manage the entire day.
Yeah, it's going to set you up,
from a scheduling perspective. Yeah, because And really it would work if, say, your little one was waking at 7 o'clock to start the day, then they're going to, you're using a 2-hour wake window, 9 till 10 o'clock. Then your next nap is going to be 12 till 2. And so you're kind of future-proofing the rest of your day by having a longer 1-hour nap. Even to the point of if your little one was waking slightly earlier, I'd probably encourage a longer first nap just to...
Oh, I just gave someone an 8:45 till 10 based on the timing
100%.
of that the baby
That's
was
what I would
waking
do.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. Mainly because your first nap is going to be typically your first nap is the one that's going to lengthen and link first anyway. So you kind of use that to your advantage. So I would sort of float between an hour and possibly an hour and a half maximum, depending on what time your little one wakes.
Yeah, and I think the reason why we're saying that is also I'm reading between the lines here that if a 1-hour nap is an option, it tells me that this baby has the ability to take a longer nap rather than them capping it. If you're listening and thinking, I wish my baby was able to take a nap, 1-hour nap, we are stuck in the 45-minute jail. That's also okay. I'd be doing a 9 till 9:45. I think I've said it before. I will happily take 4 45-minute naps at 4 months of age. Absolutely age appropriate. You don't need to listen to this and think, gosh, I really need to be nap training or stretching or doing working. Take the pressure off. If it's available to you and your baby, and it's so common that the first nap of the day is the easier one, and then maybe things get dicier as the day goes on. But if you're in the only got 45-minute naps as an option to work with, great. We do a 9 till 9:45.
Yep. Yeah. And that's right. And then the next nap would be 11:45. So totally fine.
And then you still get all your feeds in. There is, you can have your cake and eat it too, regardless of whether your baby's a cat napper or they have an ability to take a longer nap. But if they can, then let's err on the longer side in the morning to set your day up for success. Okay. I think that's us for today. As always, we've had a good our favourite.
When we've had some really great different questions that came in today.
Lots of scheduling things. And this is the nitty-gritty. And it's also where I think having a sleep consultant is help. And look, there are many different ways to distribute sleep totals. I have been seeing a lot of, and I think it's a fine idea to use ChatGPT to say create a schedule for my 8-month-old. But when I have read those schedules, they haven't made sense to me. And I think that's where the nuance of a sleep consultant can be really helpful with scheduling, is because we can actually explain why 12:30 versus 12:50 is different. Why 30-minute nap versus 40 to 45-minute nap is different, and what the wake window. So hopefully that comes across in in these episodes, because it's not just arbitrary numbers.
100%. There's a method to the madness, like we always say. And we want you to understand the madness so that you can then go ahead and create your own madness.
And that you can troubleshoot too. Like, oh, my baby usually takes the 2 1.5-hour naps that Sally mentioned in the 2-nap schedule. But, oh gosh, this day, for whatever reason, we only got 30 minutes. Great. Beck suggested a different one. This is what I'm going to do now. So that you've got the tools up your sleeve. All right. Well, we will see you on the next week. If you have a question that you would like to have answered on this little second episode that we release every Thursday, each week, Beck and I on our social medias, you can find them in the show notes. We pop up a question box at some point leading up. We're not exactly scheduled, despite loving schedules. And you can answer your question there, and then we will go through it. And a lot of the ones, if we've missed, we will do in another episode, or they are worth a whole episode in and of themselves. So that will be coming up too. All right, we will see you then. Happy sleeping.
See you on the flip side. See ya.
Bye.